One thing that causes people to become disillusioned in their journey towards Allah is when they stop trusting in Him. When they start feeling that things in their lives are out of their control, even though they did dua, they did their tawbah, they might ask themselves, I supplicated, I repented, I sought closeness to Allah, but things aren't going right. And because they aren't going right, they start to question the substance of their dua. Asslamu Alaykum, girls. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to have trust in Allah and building tawakkul. Just quick disclaimer, I'm not a scholar or anybody that's super knowledgeable, just wanting to share my experiences and also hoping to just benefit someone if they're at a similar place in life as me as well. So yeah, alhamdulillah, let's get into this video. I'm super excited. So to start with what I think is one of the most important aspects of building that relationship with Allah, that tawakkul, that trust in Allah's plan for you, is by understanding the Quran and what the Quran means. And I feel like I sound like a broken record because every time I talk about anything, I feel like I'm always talking about understanding the Quran and studying the Quran, because I feel like the whole reason Allah gave us the Quran was to guide us through this life, right? And I feel like many of you guys might have been at a place this last year or just in your life recently where sometimes you just feel like hopeless because of all the things going on in the world, because of things going on in our lives. And just like, sometimes you're just like, you know, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know a way forward. I don't understand what the plan for my life is. And Allah has given us the Quran, like literally for us to be guided. That's what the Quran is for, to guide us. And so that goes hand in hand with trust for me, because when you genuinely trust Allah, why wouldn't you follow the guidance of Allah, right? And then in order to truly trust Allah, you follow His guidance and you see how much peace and contentment that adds into your life. So it's like, it goes both ways, you know, that trust and that guidance. And for me, something that just immensely helps me so much is just reading the Quran, reading the understanding of what the Quran means and reflecting on it and truly allowing it to hold space in my life and in my heart and taking the lessons of what the Quran is, right? What the Quran is supposed to serve as, right? So I feel like if you don't take anything from this video, and that's why I wanted to say this first, if you don't take anything else from this video but this, study what the Quran means, right? Study the stories of the companions, study the stories of the prophets. You know, we were talking about at a halaqah not too long ago, and it was, the girls were saying how like you will find a story of a companion or a prophet that resonates to what you're going through in your life, and you will see that how Allah has helped them through it, and as a means to understanding how Allah is helping you through it as well, right? Because Allah is helping us through so many things that we don't even know. Like, we genuinely don't even know the things that Allah is doing for us sometimes. And so when we like learn about these stories and understand the people, you know, the Muslims that have lived before us and how things that they've dealt with, I feel like it always creates a better trust in Allah, you know? So yeah, I would say really study the Quran. And that's one of my like main things that I'm trying to work on right now, is studying the Quran and studying, you know, the people, the companions, the prophets, peace be upon them. And that's what I would say is like the biggest thing for trusting Allah. You guys know one of my favorite ayahs in Surah Maryam is ayat 4. And the ayat talks about how Prophet Zakaria is making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he is feeling like this dua is like impossible, right? He feels like this dua is impossible. I really want this dua. Ya Allah, even though I feel like it's impossible, I've never made dua for something, I've never asked of you for something and have been displeased or unhappy with what you have given me, right? That to me is literally trust in Allah. Like, that is complete trust in Allah, where you're like, I don't even know how you're gonna make this happen, but I know you're gonna make this happen in some capacity for me, Ya Allah, you know? Like, I don't know whether it's gonna be answered in this dunya or not, or if it's gonna be answered in the akhirah, but I know that I've never been unsatisfied asking Allah for help. That's what Prophet Zakaria alayhi salam was saying, right? And so to me, that is trust in Allah. Like that ayat, and also just Surah Maryam in general, like Maryam, radiallahu anha, like how she trusted Allah, right? Had a whole baby, had Prophet Isa as a virgin, and like you imagine how scary that is, you know? Like subhanallah, like that is trust in Allah, right? So I really think about these honorable people and the prophets and the companions as a way to understand that's trust in Allah. And although we're not perfect, we can strive for that level of trust in Allah as well. And sometimes it's also understanding that the wisdom that Allah has that we don't know, like we genuinely don't know. And I feel like, think back to times in your life where something didn't go the way you wanted it to go, and you look at it now, you're like, Alhamdulillah, that didn't go the way I wanted to go. Alhamdulillah, that wasn't what Allah made happen for me. Do you know how draining it is when as a person you try to control every aspect of your life because you don't genuinely have trust in Allah? You know how draining that is? Like I've like been at that point where I've tried to control oh my God, I'm trying to think back to it. Like it is so mentally draining because we don't have the capacity to, like we're unable to control everything. Like we're genuinely unable to control everything. So when we try so hard to control things that are out of our control, how contradicting does that even sound? So I feel like when you genuinely just submit to Allah, when you genuinely submit to Allah, it's just so much more peaceful. And this is a daily decision. This is not just like one day I'm like, okay, I'm going to submit to Allah and that's it. Like, you know, I submit to Allah. No, this is a daily thing. When things come up that you are struggling with, that you are having difficulty coming to terms with, being like, okay, this is hard for me right now, but I genuinely trust Allah's plan. And I know that I don't have the power and the capacity to handle this. So why am I trying to handle all of this? Why don't I give it to Allah? Because He's gonna do so much more with that struggle than I would ever be able to, you know? I think that's just something that I like to think about. And it's not an easy journey, and it's like a regular process that you have to go through, like every single day with your heart, every single day with your intentions, every single day with decisions that you make in your life, being like, okay, when I'm doing this, am I genuinely trusting Allah right now, or am I trying to control everything, right? Am I genuinely trusting Allah, or am I doubting His plans for me? And I have to I genuinely ask those questions in my head as I make decisions. I'm like, am I doing this because I trust Allah, right? And this also has a little bit of the difficulty with when it comes to like tying your camel, right? You don't just let your camel go and then you be like, okay, well, like I'm just gonna trust that it's gonna stay and I'm gonna trust Allah. Like obviously no, but you tie your camel, you do your due diligence, right? And then you leave the rest to Allah. And when tying your camel becomes, you're like trying so hard to anchor that camel down, and you're like doing like excessive amount of things because you don't trust that Allah is going to protect your camel, that's when it becomes problematic to me, right? When you start building a whole, like, oh my God, like telling 10 people to watch after your camel and trying to build a whole shelter and be like, okay, because you don't really genuinely think Allah's going to protect your camel, right? This is just a like analogy, of course. But when you just tie it down, right? That took effort to tie it down, but it didn't take all of you, right, to tie it down. You put effort and you left the rest to Allah. That's kind of how I am trying to move through the world right now. Put my effort, right? When it comes to my education, when it comes to my friendships, when it comes to seeking knowledge, when it comes to becoming a better Muslim, all these things, put my effort, right? And leave the rest to Allah. that is really what trusting Allah, tawakkul, means. And I'm gonna also link down like some resources that like I feel like would be really helpful from, you know, people that are very knowledgeable on the deen, Barik, that you can, you know, benefit from. But I feel like the last thing I want to like close off with and leave you guys with is knowing that Allah is your biggest supporter, right? To me, it honestly makes me like very emotional because it's like, subhanAllah, like Allah is literally taking care of so many things for you right now that you don't even know, right? Allah has protected you from so many things that if we wrote a list would be endless, right? Alhamdulillah, I feel like trust in Allah also comes from genuine, sincere gratitude and all that He's already blessed you with and all that He's already provided for you, right? Like, I think about my life, alhamdulillah, and I'm like, I am so blessed. Everything that I have, Allah has given it to me. Everything. There's not a single thing that I would have had in this world without Allah, right? So thinking about that, thinking about how Allah genuinely loves you so much, and how there's so many times where you have not shown up as the best Muslim and He's still forgiven you, and He's still protected you, and He's still providing for you. Why wouldn't you trust a Lord that is so generous that you can fall short and He will and make tawbah and He will still forgive you, right? Why wouldn't you trust a Lord that literally wants you to go to Jannah? Like he wants you to go to Jannah. He wants you to receive the blessings and the hereafter, and He wants to grant you some level of ease here as well. Why wouldn't you trust Allah? And I think about that, like Allah literally loves us so much. He loves us believers so much. Like, I don't know, Surah Abbas is a really good example of that, right? How much Allah values us as people who are Muslims, right? Like Allah loves us so much, and I just feel like that always makes me feel so much more gratitude and want to trust Allah, because it's like, why wouldn't I? Like, my 21 years of life, He's taken care of me, and He's put people in my life to take care of me, and He's given me knowledge that's taking care of me, and He's given me resources, and like, alhamdulillah, like that's what I like to think about, right? And that's how I want to show up in this world, because you know when you see people that trust Allah, like I have some people in my life that I feel like really they trust Allah, and the way they live and the way they show up in this world is like, it's just undescribable, because they don't have all of this like weight on them, because they gave it to Allah. They know that they cannot handle everything on their own. So I'm speaking to you. You cannot handle everything on your own. You need Allah. You need Allah. Allah does not need you. You need Allah. You need Allah, because you're a human being that's going to go through so much in this world, and you cannot deal with it all on your own. You genuinely cannot. So that's my lesson to you. That's my advice to you guys. That's the advice to myself, my lessons that I'm learning in my life right now. And I hope in some aspect and in some capacity, I was able to benefit one of you guys. For the sake of Allah, please let me know if there's anything from this video that stood out to you, or things that you're trying to work on in trusting Allah. But yeah, Assalamu Alaykum, guys.